Welcome to the Town of Annapolis Royal Council meeting for today, March 15th, 2023. And we are starting at approximately on time, as best I can figure, 6:00 p.m. Today's meeting is being streamed live on the Town of Annapolis Royal YouTube channel. To those present in the gallery today by attending a public meeting of the council, you are consenting to having your image, voice, and comments recorded. Anyone who is invited to speak will be recorded, and their voice, image, and comments will form part of the live stream. The chair and/or the CAO have the discretion and authority at any time to direct the termination or interruption of live streaming. Such direction will only be given in exceptional circumstances when deemed relevant. And we hope not to encounter those. I will acknowledge that this meeting is taking place in Mi'kmaq, the traditional territory of the Mi'kmaq people. All members of council are present. We have a Councillor Sanford online this evening. So I'll call this meeting to order. Are there any additions to the agenda? Yes.
Under new business, can we add a discussion on a donation bylaw? Since we don't have one.
On a donation bylaw. Are there any other additions?
So I have the two additions, one in camera legal and the other one under new business to Middleton healthcare letter request.
So under new business, we do have items, we have item 2, which is emergency room closures at Soldiers Memorial Hospital. And the donation bylaw will now be item 3 under new business. Under in camera, we are adding the fourth item, which is new contract, will be legal matters under item 4. Thank you for that. If there are no other additions to the agenda, it is approved with those changes. In terms of the minutes of the council meeting of February 15th, 2023, are there any errors or omissions? And if we hear none, that is also approved by unanimous consent. So this evening, we'd like to welcome Ian Tenhoff, am I pronouncing that correctly? From the Atlantic Infrastructure Management Network on the very exciting matter of town infrastructure. Over to you, Ian.
Wonderful, thank you, Emily.
You're welcome.
Let's get things shared up properly for the presentation.
Also approved by unanimous consent. So this evening, we'd like to welcome Ian Tenhoff. Infrastructure network exciting infrastructure.
It wasn't even on, but I can't minimize this. Sorry about that.
That's okay.
Not your fault for getting used to new technology.
Absolutely.
Trying to keep up.
All right, we'll dive right in here. I'll try to keep this to 15 or 20 minutes, so we're not all staying late and I can make the drive home before our nasty weather hits, but be here talking to you about asset management. So this is a term that's kind of stolen by the financial sector, meaning dealing with billions of dollars, but in our sense, we're not dealing with that amount of money. We're dealing with the assets that the town owns and manages and uses to deliver services to the residents of Annapolis Royal. So, as discussed earlier, I'm with AIM Network. This is a nonprofit organization. We are delivering this asset management program. I believe this is the second phase we've done through with you guys earlier in 2019.
Yeah.
I believe, yes. This project was delivered under the FCM NAMP program. That's our attribution there, and we'll jump right into things. So I got all kinds of little pop-ups on my screen here. Let me make sure. There we go. So when we're talking about asset management, what we're doing is making sure that we can sustainably deliver services to the residents. And when I say sustainability, that's nothing to do with environmental reasons. That's just, can we continue to provide services with the money we have and the liabilities we have indefinitely? that's what we're getting into. So the core asset management principles that we run with all starts with your asset management policy, which was enacted for you guys in May 2022. It is a 3-page document. Whenever you guys are trying to make a tough decision, that is the first place you can go to make sure you're incorporating everything from that policy into your decision to make sure it's informed, transparent, and based on good information. So we like having a clear line of sight through everything with that policy. Looks like I already covered all this slide without reading it. So we'll hop right into the next part. So the key pillars of your policy, these are different for all the towns, so we try and keep it on a nice clean template for everyone to keep things simple. Is continuous improvement within asset management. What we're doing here today does not mean you're done. This is a program. It is constantly evolving and changing and improving. Integrating asset management systems. This would make sure that anything going on in the town gets a holistic approach and integrates the things we're talking about today with any other business that the town's taking on. Support asset management awareness and competencies of staff, council in accordance with their respective roles and responsibilities. That is geared towards making sure everyone's on the same page, team, and we're establishing a good culture and we're all on board with what we're doing here. And then commitment to community engagement, which is always wonderful to see and is the biggest pillar that, of course, we're all here for. At the end of the day, everything is about the community. So now let's start looking at some numbers. These are the total value of your assets. I don't like saying they're valuable. They are a liability that we are managing, and we're in the business of managing risks and liabilities, not trying to take on more things and accrue value necessarily. So finding ways to keep these numbers kind of low is the name of the game. So you can see a bulk of your money is tied up in wastewater and water supply, and then facilities coming in as well. Just a disclaimer, the project is not complete yet. The deadline is 2 weeks from now, so these are still ongoing. We're going through quality checks and whatnot, and we're still trying to figure out the best way to incorporate the condo building into this data. It's a bit new for how we do things, but this is the total value, around $41 million. If everything in the town were to break today and we had to rebuild it, that's roughly the number. And these are very high level cost estimates. I'm an engineer, but I'm not providing an engineering assessment here. It's just straight numbers across the board. And we also like displaying this in terms of a per capita to get a sense of things. So if we take the total value of that infrastructure divided by how long it's supposed to last, it equates to around $900,000 a year. That would be around $1,700 a head for each person in town. This is right in line with what we see with most towns. We usually range between 1,000 and 2,000 for towns and between 200 to 1,200 for counties, which can vary widely based on the services they offer.
So we're at the high end of the range.
Yeah, which is to be expected with the smaller populace. A town of New Glasgow per se beats you guys because they provide quite a few services that not everyone's providing things. So you're in a comfortable range, and we'll dig into this number is going to get a lot lower once we start looking at how we incorporate other things with asset management. So broad condition, I don't like spending too much time here. We're not fixing the whole water supply network tomorrow. We're looking at things individually, but here's a broad look at all the conditions. The facilities appear to be in great shape. Your fleet's relatively new in great shape. Stormwater, we don't have a lot of information on, but it's in very good shape. And some of these things might be missing conditions, which changes our total values. And the water supply you can see is on the poorer side. So these conditions are 1 through 5, 1 being the best and 5 being the worst. And there are a few, again, we said in draft, there's a few numbers here that make me want to go in and check our data through our whole QC, but these aren't where we should be hanging our hat. We're making decisions not based on condition, based on a whole number of other factors. So one of those factors is level of service. So what does residents expect from us? Are we meeting that? And can we sustainably meet that going into the future? How can we communicate that to residents to say, this is what we're providing now? Clearly, I like using snow plows as a good example. It costs us this much money to have the roads cleared within X amount of hours of the snowfall. If that's not acceptable to the community, we can look at increasing that reactive time. And we can assign costs to that, and it can be very transparent and clear, and people can kind of see what they're getting from their tax dollars. That's what these tools are here for. So I kind of summarized a lot of the pieces from your level of service assessment, which we made some minor updates to from the 2019. No projects were triggered from this. We typically do. There are a lot of studies being triggered at the moment. You guys don't have too many impending capital projects coming up, which we'll see later on. It's more making sure we're prepared for the future, because things will be coming up in the next 20 or so years. So just a few examples of how this works. I'm not going to spend too much time because there's some more fun stuff later on to eat up our time, but things like drinking water quality. There's pressure deficiencies in some homes. This could have been solved by spending $100,000 on booster station per se, but it has been agreed upon to be solved at a home level to put in certain pressure pumps and backflow preventers. That's much cheaper for the community and seems to be acceptable for the town. So wonderful. And this is just kind of how we can use these tools to communicate decisions and be very transparent with the money we're spending on things. So we'll be giving you this big document later on. You can dig into it if it piques your interest, but this is just about the time I'll spend level of service. Now we run into our projections. So let's take a bit of time here. So the number went down because we've incorporated another key pillar. So we were talking condition earlier, we talked level of service, and another thing we have to manage is risk. And all of these things are going to drive the dollars moving through. So we brought our $920,000 a year down to $280,000 a year over the next 20 years, roughly, to be able to manage infrastructure deficits. So we have tools at our disposal. Let's say we weren't saving enough money right now to be able to keep up with that demand. We could do things like absorb more risk within the town, and then we could lower those numbers and defer capital projects. And we will be giving you all the information you need in about 2 pages. Easy reads is what we're all about. We're not trying to look smart by having a big page count. So it'll be very clear for you to understand what the risk means and what impact adjusting that to defer projects would have on the community and safety, culture, all those things. But you're not in a position where you need to do that. And the next slide will kind of show this, but we can take a peek. A lot of the money coming up, which you typically expect in these 20 years, is with transportation and roads. That's because roads typically last around 20 years. So of course they're going to pop up in here. And then you have some fleet and we don't have much, and some potable water coming in. Again, the potable water infrastructure was on the older side, and then these low life assets like fleet and roads are coming in to be expected. And you'll notice that there's really not too much money for us to be spending in the next 15 years even. It's not until we start getting to 20 that things go up. And when we look at the 50-year projections, things go up even further, but this is not cause for concern right now. And we'll break down all those numbers shortly. Okay. So right now, I don't have years and years and years of data, but based on your last budget, you're putting in approximately $250,000 into reserves. You're not putting dollar to dollar to projects. A lot of things get funded through grant funding. Sandy is a wizard at getting grants. So we're going to put in, we assume that about 60% of funding comes in from the feds of the province. So that gives that $228,000 has about $570,000 in buying power. That far exceeds your 280 of demand over the next 20 years. But when we were looking at our 50-year demand, we're starting to hit closer to 600,000. That's 50 years. I mean, I'm all about looking long-term, but who knows if we even need roads in 50 years and what's going on. So we don't get too tied up in that, but we need to be aware of it. We constantly update this so that we don't get caught by surprise. So let's see here. And another big risk that I, just to bring up with that 60% grant funding, we can't always 100% rely on it as governments cycle through. Say you're only getting 30% funding, now your buying power dips way down, but it's still within your 20-year projection limit. So that's great news. It means things are healthy, sustainable. We didn't even have to pull out any tricks like adjusting and absorbing a lot of risk to take things on. From all the towns we've been going through, you guys are healthy, nothing too exciting to write a case study on or whatnot. It's just business as usual, nice, and things are moving clean. Things other to factor in with these cost projections is inflation has been running rampant. We've updated our values, but we're still getting a lot of discrepancies. But this is getting counteracted by the property value assessments. I was poking around town, a lot of them jumped way up. I'm sure all your guys' homes, if you own here, have gone up, so that's more revenue for the town. Another thing to keep healthy, this doesn't mean you're in a position to say cut taxes or anything, and we'll dig into that later. But yeah, things are healthy and looking sustainable. Street resurfacing would be something to be looking at, or street maintenance, as we saw in the last leg here. There's that big chunk of orange right there for transportation jobs. So something like street resurfacing would be a good idea. If we don't have a lot of knowledge of what the condition of things are under the ground, we don't want to go reconstruct the base of the whole street and everything and find out that the water main breaks 3 years later and we have to damage that. So we'll be looking into street resurfacing and things like that. All right, and in these times where we're not doing a lot of capital spending, I like to push the idea of reducing our error bars on that big hit that's coming in the next 15 years by having inspection programs. If we have a bit of loose change around to put a couple tens of thousands-ish into CCTV programs. I don't think you're in a position where you need a pavement maintenance program or anything, but like maybe running a few cameras or starting to track history of water main breaks to get an understanding of how those are going. That'll just kind of reduce those error bars on our long projection and just kind of add to your sense of comfort with how things are shaping up. So the one big thing we want to build in town is the seawall. I have a big bright red. Don't take these numbers too close to heart right now. These are just the best we have right now. We got that extension, which is lovely. But big, we've been talking with geotechs around here. It's a very interesting area with a lot of variability in the geology. And the foundation of this wall is going to be the biggest driver for cost, and it's also our biggest unknown. But with the information we have on hand now, subject to a lot of change, yes. So let's dig in with what we have now. So right now, DMAF funds 40%. We would say look to stack up to the max allowed of 66%, just to round things off. Let's go back to our 60% target to keep the numbers clean. We have our kind of class high level, really low class cost estimate about 4.7 million right now to do the seawall. That would need a $1.88 million in municipal contribution. If you take your surplus from the 20-year capital band, we have what was the value there? So you're putting 228 away, which is 570 in spending power. And then if you take the math away from the 20-year projection requirement, let's say we take 5 years to save up and plan and make sure all our ducks in a row, we'll be left with about $580,000 in reserves to put towards the wall. That'll leave us with some borrowing that needs to happen. And that would push us into about $90,000 a year of debt repayment over 20 years for the remainder of the wall, which still lies within that surplus that you have. So right now, with the information we have, it looks very feasible to be able to construct this and virtually make no adjustments to taxes or anything like that, or having to absorb costs down the road. But as I said, like, we want to reduce a lot of error bars and we'll do a lot more cost estimates, but it makes perfect sense to keep going down this path. It's very realistic that you'll have the funds to build this.
Now, Matt mentioned a better grant program that would yield about 40%.
Yeah, that was through FCM.
Yes.
Yeah, that's what we have here with
80%.
the stacking. So we look to stack multiple
Okay.
grants up, and
Thank you.
he was telling me the max we could go to is 66, no matter what year. And the feds have a cap on that. So that is the position here. This is kind of the biggest capital expense that's going to be coming up. There's a few water main things that might be worth keeping an eye on and doing, go back a bit, but this is what's gonna be driving a lot of decisions right now, and this is what we're focusing. It looks very feasible to not affect negatively in any extent.
Now, it still doesn't include the wharf, right?
I don't have the breakdown where he came up with that value. I think we just kind of said the wall's this long and it's gonna cost this much a meter kind of thing. So it's not too detailed right now.
All right,
So the
Yeah.
wharf's not
the
included,
wharf's not included.
and the wall was going in front of the wharf. Because we had changed it, it's from going around to in front.
And they didn't know what they were gonna do with the boat hall yet.
Right.
Yeah, we were thinking a storm gate that we can close up when the event calls for it, but kind of keep it open for 98% of the time. This is our initial thoughts, but
So these numbers will go
Still
up.
change, yeah.
they will go up, down, sideways, who knows at this time, but yeah.
You have a starting point.
We have a starting point. This is where we're at right now. But it looks like it's feasible. And we're gonna keep going down the road and figure out how we can make it happen. So. Let's see here, just a few things to know, the capital cost will increase, I've said that about a dozen times now.
But you're talking about the capital costing, or also the capital, our ability to fund capital over the next few years.
Yes, so that was the 20-year demand was a big chunk, and then your surplus for what you're currently put away. So just that savings on that surplus.
So that's all you're looking at. You're not
That's
looking
what
at
I'm
increased
considering.
Capacity in the future.
Yeah, well, I didn't raise what you're putting away at all.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah,
So that was based on getting grants of around 60% of that, right?
yes, and you would be
On an annual
getting,
basis.
yes, which is quite typical and standard for a community this size. Anywhere from 50 to even sometimes 80% people can get for a lot of their capital projects. Is quite, we usually put in 60% for every town for things like this. That's what the formerly known as gas tax is designed to do for all the towns. So, another thing to keep in mind when we build the wall, let's say 5 years from now, it is designed to be built higher if climate change calls for it. So another capital expense that could be hefty is a wait-in. And recall your 50-year has a higher demand than your 20-year. So there's still things to look at, but that is the flood analysis report says we're still at risk today, regardless of climate change. So it's going to do good and will reduce the risk of catastrophic flooding regardless. And this stage of it appears to be doable. And when we're looking at those 50-year forecasts, who knows if we even have sewer mains anymore, like technology can drastically change how things are done. So that is my spiel. We will be, the FCM deadline is end of the month. We will be delivering the following here within your capital plan. You'll get your purpose, all your revenue sources, any regulatory requirements, and that kind of side is the bulk of the report at the front that you can kind of flip right to the risk assessment, capital works recommendations, and financial summaries where you guys might want to look through, spend some time. It's going to be a pretty quick read. The whole report ends up being about 30 pages and about 10 pages of stuff you can dig your teeth into. And then we also have a continuous improvement plan, which is one of the pillars of your policy, which we can see here. We recommend renewing the policy regularly. You have a roadmap that kind of charts out what you're expecting to do with your improvements. Update that as you meet or exceed those things or don't meet things. A lot of capacity issues with town staff all across Nova Scotia. Update your asset register, so continue to stay on top of your data. I'm going to say that again because it costs a lot of money to collect the data, but it doesn't cost that much money to upkeep it. But once that kind of, like, if we have to come in and restart from the ground up, it's another $60,000. If we come in and just do updates, it's much cheaper. And ideally, we don't have to come back here at all. And I don't know if Sandy has the time, but she should have the knowledge to be able to continue this. Is the goal. If we might have failed at our goal, I'm not sure, but our goal is to never have to come back and ensure you guys are very sustainable with your asset management
So public
abilities.
works have to be inputting the data for every change in the system all the time.
We have a committee terms of reference that kind of lays out roles and responsibilities for that. But it could be, I mean, it depends on the amount of capital works being done. It could be just a once a year, go through the stack on the desk. It could be a weekly thing to upkeep. It all depends on
Well,
just the
you're talking
workflow.
like about preventive, and staff decided the water saddles were failing in town, so they decided to get ahead of it. They recommended we start replacement program for everything that was at that age, which they did all last summer.
Mhm.
Still some more to do.
Yeah,
So, but those things would have to be reported, right, as they're done.
yes, if you're doing maintenance, no, but if you're doing replacements, yes, anything capital should be getting in there.
Hmm.
And then we also recommend updating your risk and level of service every few years. Risk can be a pretty quick exercise, it doesn't change too much. Level of service can be quite burdensome to go through. It's a big document. There's lots of things that you guys are providing, you might not even realize, and all the little nuances, but and it's asset management as an industry is only about 7 years old in Canada, so we're still coming up with new fun ways to kind of do this more efficiently
Talked
too.
about the tax rate too. The fact is, we have a lot of infrastructure to support.
Yes. Yeah, it's not an outlier, but it's definitely on the higher 30% of communities that we've been through. I'm trying to get a database of everybody so I can be more informed when I tell people that, but yeah, yours is in the top 30%, but not shocking by any means. And then updating the capital plan every 5 years is a good recommend. 3 if you're eager, but 5 is sufficient.
Ours is 5 now, isn't it? Capital, yeah.
And it will be brand new in a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
Okay. That is all I had. Did anyone else have any other questions?
Yeah, I've got some questions.
Yeah.
Great presentation.
Well, thank you.
So I've got 3 questions. I'll just fire them out because you might be able to just answer them all in one go. In the collection of assets for the town, I think you mentioned it doesn't include the academy condos. Is that correct?
We collected, I don't know, we didn't go in anyone's condo unit, but we went to the facility
Yes.
and we're just figuring out the best way to kind of break down who owns what, because you guys are an owner,
Yes.
considered one of the 38
Yeah.
units in there, I
I think
believe.
you have 22% share.
Okay,
Well, no, that's, well, yes, but we just have one condo.
We do.
It's just a big one.
But that's
It's
the
a-
voting,
Oh, I see, right.
Right.
okay.
Yeah,
I thought
so-
that was footage.
yeah, well, we can have a email, go back and forth to make sure we got the right percentage down, but initially we had it in there as 100%, you guys, which was a red flag. And so the number could go up a bit, but there wasn't a significant change. I think it was like a couple 10,000-ish dollars when I had the whole building in there versus just
Right.
your 138th portion, so don't expect a big fluctuation once we get that sorted out.
Okay, great. Next question, capacity of our wastewater treatment plant. Are we at max capacity on that?
I'm
Because
not sure.
that isn't anything you've looked at.
No, if it was, if it got brought up by Public Works, we would put that in the level
Okay.
of service. But I don't recall that.
Okay,
We can take a look though.
yeah, I was just wondering what the forecast is for expanding in the future, because I know we've had all the extra condos, we've had Fortune Mills, so we've had more increase in population.
Mhm.
But I just didn't know where we were with the sewage treatment plant.
Yeah, the level of service mentioned, looking at alternate ways of doing aeration and whatnot, but we don't. I think it's just in the planning phases at the moment. We don't have any real numbers to plug in.
Okay, and my last question, you said some solutions would be the town absorbing more risk.
Yeah,
Can you give me an example of what you mean by that?
absolutely. So, I'm just gonna. Normally I put the matrix in there, but we were talking CPAC. I'm still sharing that. Just gonna pull up a risk matrix here to help explain how this works, because it's very good to go through. One moment. Yeah, it doesn't want to load up for me right now. I think it's the internet, but so we look at probability of failure and consequence of failure, and that'll make a big difference. So our probability is just condition. That's going to stay quite stagnant. Oh, where did it actually? Oh. Just took a while. Okay. Let me fix my screen share so my audience can also see. Stop share screen. Okay, so I think you should be able to see that on whatever screen we're looking at. But so we have a little matrix here. So we have very clear definitions for what a 1 through 5 means. A 5 is something like someone's at risk of serious injury or death. The 1 is we don't really need to think about it. You should not have any 5s. You should maybe have a couple things at a 4 kind of thing. So we have these tolerances here, and it gets associated to a class. So these classes are kind of like, I have to fix this today immediately. High would be I have to fix this in the next 5 years. Medium would be I have to fix this in the next 10 years.
Okay.
And we have this range here. So if I were to adjust my range to say, let's capture, let's do some, oops. Let's just make it drastic. 17. So we kind of adjusted when we're going to be looking at fixing things that fall into a certain category. So like, I'm not okay with the probability that, let's say, a water main might break on Main Street, which would affect tourism and the economy down here. So I want to fix that in the next 5 years, so I'm not comfortable with it. But if that pushes our forecast to an extent that we can't absorb, like we can't afford to do that, and then we have to talk about, okay, let's look at fixing it in the next 10 years. So the tools, when we look at adjusting the risk matrix, we'll do that across everything. So you should have an understanding of what 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in consequences. And then you can have an understanding of, okay, an extreme I need to fix today, a high I need to fix in 5 years. And you can kind of have that. Would I be comfortable with that? Can I afford to change when I'm looking at that? So it'll kind of defer projects later in the future and save you money, or maybe not save you money, but push the buck down the road. Or are we in a position where we can manage a comfortable amount of risks now and understand what that means?
Okay.
It gives you the impact of your decisions.
Yes.
Potential.
Both in a practical, real world sense and an economic sense. All in one.
Okay.
And we can just play around with the numbers right there and kind of see live how it moves around.
Right.
Mhm. And you guys will be getting this big fancy Excel spreadsheet as well. We all our software, but
So we can play around with the numbers and
Mhm.
see what the outcomes are.
yes. And we can do things like change maintenance programs on roads and make them last 40 years longer and see how that changes things and things like that. Lots of fun tools we can flex to kind of change the outlook. Yeah. Yeah.
We have Dan, we have Dan,
Yes.
Perfect.
young Dan.
Great.
Any other questions?
I just have one.
That's a really good question.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yes.
Oh, okay, sorry. The seawall, you mentioned it would cost 4.7 million. Is that for the entire wall or just a portion of it?
That is our best cost estimate for the entire wall right now. But it's subject to a high degree of variability as we're very
That
early
seems
in the
like a low
concept phase.
number. Yeah. Seems
Yeah,
like-
it might very well be extremely low, or we could get lucky with the bedrock formation and it could be much cheaper.
And that's without the wharf, right, Holly?
Yes, I did hear that. Thank you. Yeah. That was it. Thanks.
I just wanted to ask a quick question. At the presentation last week, your colleague was here and he talked about possibly reaching out to Dr. Webster, who's he does the sea level rise and geomatics, so he could, and LiDAR, so he could maybe give you an understanding of what his research has uncovered for this area.
I'm not, you
No,
didn't, you
okay.
didn't give me the full debrief
Oh,
yet,
okay.
but.
Might be worth reaching out and getting
Mhm,
his take on it, because he's done years of research.
absolutely, yes,
Sea
we,
level rise in this area.
yeah, we went through John Bottomley, compiled everything, and we have, there's NSCC contacts, yeah, not NASCA, but we have quite a few contacts, and if Matt said he was gonna do that, I
Right.
trust he's gonna be
Okay, yes.
reaching out and doing
Perfect.
that, he's
Great.
the supreme leader, I suppose we can call him.
And I think we're ahead of the pack when it comes to LiDAR mapping, right? We've got all that's being done, all that work is being done.
Yeah, it's the whole province is getting quite a good amount of coverage these days. The province has been compiling a nice database, which I love as a stormwater engineer. Half of the problem with it.
Yeah,
Something that didn't come across from Matt, and you just mentioned it, is the stormwater plan. Once the seawall goes in, right?
Yeah, right now that would be included here. It's mainly just, we would maintain a very, most of the infrastructure would stay in place, barring any problem conditions that are worth getting ahead of now while people are here. But it would mainly just be a booster station to get things over the wall, so. But it's about 100,000 of the 4.7
Oh,
million.
my goodness. It's a little thing.
Yeah, it's, when these big projects get going, things change.
Any other questions from anybody? Cool. This is great. Thank you
Wonderful.
so much.
We had a good 35 minutes. Hey, I love talking about this stuff. I'm glad you guys are having that fun. I'll shut down. and-
Great, that's it all done. Yeah,
Wonderful.
I'm sure we'll have questions if we start reading with you.
Yeah, absolutely. Bring them on.
yes.
We're always, anytime, any year, we're always here to answer questions.
Well, thank you so much. It's very reassuring to have all this work done. It really
Wonderful.
is.
Glad to hear. Knowledge is power. I suppose.
It certainly is.
And we have no public here to ask questions. No. No,
Well, we had a good turnout last week
we did.
when Matt was here presenting.
Yeah, I
A room
heard.
full of people.
Yeah, it's
Some great
exciting.
questions.
I came up for the initial public consultation with the roundtables, I think we called them, Sandy, and it was a really nice turnout. And
Mm.
I love coming up to Annapolis Royal. This is been my favorite community to work with. It's just got a bit more of a defined culture than a lot of other places I find.
That's all we could do with 2 kilometers.
Yeah, doing a lot with it.
Well, thank you so much, Ian. Really appreciate it. And there will be questions, I know.
At any time. I mean, the staff can reach out anytime if they have questions with how the software works. We're a nonprofit capacity building organization. We're not here trying to make a killing off of everybody.
And this project, Yarmouth was also involved in, right?
Your Stellarton was a
Like
collaborator.
Stellarton.
Yes.
Yes, not Yarmouth.
Didn't have a
We had to
huge,
change last minute to
Okay,
Stellarton, yeah.
so it's Stellarton.
yeah. Matt took care of that part of the scope. I'm not
Yep.
too
Well,
sure what
they'll be
impact.
able to partner and do this with another municipal unit and they.
I'll be heading up there next week for one of these.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone. I'll let you get on with the agenda.
Okay,
Thank you.
well, as I said, we have no public input, public not here, although present online. So it's appropriate that we can move right straight to budget.
All your newfound knowledge.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right,
And we have our Director of Finance with us.
so you all have a copy of the budget electronically. I emailed it, I put it on SharePoint and I gave you all a copy. Yep, so I'm gonna share my screen.
Thank you.
So let me know when you see my screen.
Mhm.
We see it.
Lovely.
It'll have to be larger print. Good thing you gave it.
Do you want it larger? Do
I'll
you
just
want it,
speak for myself, but I'm gonna look at my paper copy.
so you can see it? Okay, because I can make it larger if you want to see it larger on the television.
Sure, I'm gonna go for it, bigger is better. Like things that came. That's smaller. Oh,
It's going big.
Oh, good. That's a lot better.
Yeah.
And if people are looking at this online, I think they can make up the numbers.
Okay.
If I can, they can. Yeah.
Okay, all right. Okay, so myself and the management team and the department heads, we put the budget together. We feel that this is a good budget. And actually, I think it contains everything for the most part, and it could be passed tonight if you so chose, but we'll pick some budget dates. And I want to go through some highlights and so the yellow column is our proposed budget. The green column is where we think we're going to end the year come March 31st. And of course, the column in between that is the budget that you approved last April, and we're working with it now. So I've got some assessments gone up, so our real property tax, both residential and commercial, go up as a result of that. The HST offset, the reason that's highlighted is because I have no way to know what we could put there, but I chose to put $4,000 because that's all we got last year, and we budgeted $83.35. There's no number. There's no way for me to know what that number would be. Our grants in lieu, Bell Alliant, our federal, provincial, and the NSP have all been, well, the NSP has been confirmed. This is the amount we can expect. I filed the grants, the other grants, as you know. So once we pass the budget, I can file all these. Then we come to sewage treatment in Annapolis County. And the reason that I have got this highlighted is we're still waiting for payment, as you know, for last year's amount. And of course, now I assume that I'm just going by what I think is going to happen is we're not going to be able to bill the way we always did. We're going to have to bill on the new formula. So I've plugged that in there for this year. And I've plugged the same
Bonnie,
number.
I'm sorry, you're waiting for payment for 21-22? Is that correct?
20, yes, 21-22, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
And just so you know, we thought we could do 60,000 in Triton. We'd be lucky to do 16, actually. I think we're at 15.5 now. So, you know, I've talked with the chief, and we figure 30,000 is more realistic.
Can we go back to, are we doing it by line, or are we just?
I'm just going by the highlights. So right now I'm just doing the highlights, just the things that I've earmarked that I just really want to bring to your attention.
So are you answering questions line by line as we
Oh,
go through it?
I certainly can. If you have, I certainly can.
Well, we're at sewer, and I'm just looking at the green column, and you budgeted 52, and you're looking at getting 33,136 in. Is that what we have billed them this year?
We haven't, I can't build them till, I can't build the county till our year has been closed.
No, it's 2021, 2022, right?
It's outstanding.
And then.
But is it outstanding at 52, which is what we budgeted, or is it outstanding at 33, which is what is in the green column? That's my question.
It's outstanding at 51.
Okay, so that in the green column, it should be 51, not 33.
No, I don't think we're going to be able to build them this year I think I just haven't updated that number right there, and I apologize. That should be 22, 23 forecast.
I thought that was,
Yeah. So last year's bill that is outstanding.
but that green one is 21 to 22, and
Yeah,
then March 20.
And my apologies, that should say 22, 23. This is our forecast.
Right.
But they are going to pay us the amount that we are owed
Which is what you budgeted,
in the previous year.
the 52.
Outstanding from 21-22. 22 is the 50,000, right?
Correct.
50,724.
And your forecast for this year is around 33, not knowing what the new sewer.
Yeah,
agreement will look
I
like.
don't know what we're going to be able to build.
Okay, yes, she's got it wrong.
Am I right?
Yes,
Okay, so this number here is wrong in this green one.
correct.
Okay.
Okay.
So this
So
number
that'll
should be
offset the all
52,000.
numbers going down below, right? What the difference?
Mhm.
20, 20,
So this number here should be 52,000?
Well, yes, that's what they owe us.
No, I haven't billed them yet. This is what they owe us from the year before, the yellow.
so that is 21, 22.
Yeah,
And then they did 22, 23, and we budgeted 52,000 for that.
and I haven't billed them yet. I won't be able to build them this until we've got all of our books closed for March.
So
And
that's,
the new formula.
so it'll be essentially
Yeah,
85,000.
Sandy and I discussed this the other day, and this is the number she told me to use, the latest formula.
Yeah, so it'll be 85,000, they'll be outstanding.
That's
And
right.
they should be-
That's
yeah,
right.
Just add them together, okay.
So when did the new formula come into play?
That's being discussed now.
So the budgeted amount was 52,000,
That was
And,
from 2021, 22.
and then in 2022, 2023, the budgeted amount was 52,000.
Right, because we did not know that the county wanted to redo the agreement and didn't want to use the current funding formula. So we have agreed to go through a third party to come up with a new funding formula for the current year.
Which is the 2020.
Melanie's just, she's just lowballing it, being conservative in case, because we don't know what to expect.
Okay,
Yeah.
Well, if
We're
all
still
things,
working with
if all things were equal and we plugged in their numbers that they want us to use, this is the amount that we could bill.
So you're being conservative.
well, I don't understand why we're not billing them what the old,
Because
That
it's
they
been under
was.
dispute for 20 years.
yeah, well, if they want the new number, the new rate, then they should come and sign a new contract.
Well, except there's two sides to that, two sides to negotiate. We're not convinced of the accuracy of the formula ourselves. And that was one of the reasons the town tried for many years to renegotiate the agreement. So it's a question on both sides as to what should the amount be.
And I've been working with the county for the last 6 months, maybe 7 months on the new agreement.
Mhm.
We've met, we finally got the first draft of the proposed agreement from the third party, which the county has paid for all of the work to be done on this agreement. They have assumed all cost for the third party to do the work and waiting for the draft, the final draft to come to both the county and the town for review to see if,
And the estimated difference is gonna drop at $17,000.
Well, that we don't know. She's just being very conservative. She's just saying.
Yeah, this
well,
forecast.
in this case, it could be this, right?
Yeah, this is just
She's not tipping our negotiating hand at all. She's just saying, at worst case, it could be this. She's being a director of finance.
Can I ask a question?
sure.
So if the new formula changes the amount, is it going to change the amount that they owe, the 50,000?
no, no. So the one from the previous year that's been closed, that's their bill. That is what we're saying they owe. And we said moving forward in the current fiscal year, we would go from the new agreement.
Fair
But
enough.
We didn't expect the process to take that long.
Right, but I'm just wondering what the hold up is then.
We had that conversation, I think. in
Because if
camera
it's not
a
gonna
while
change, then moving forward free, for sure, but then that's.
Yeah, we're charging them interest on their outstanding invoice right now.
Okay, that's just all I wanted to know, if that number was gonna change. Thanks.
All right,
All right, we're still in the revenue. So planning services, this is where we expect we'll be. End of the year and the new budget, building fees. They're
Excuse
over
me,
by,
Melanie, can I back up a little bit to the checks and parking infractions figure?
absolutely.
The chief is here, and I'm gonna ask him if that, the amount that's forecast to the end of this fiscal year, is that because we didn't start doing the Trident? We didn't do it for the whole fiscal year, it was less than,
Yeah, one of the reasons is we don't have somebody specifically assigned to do it. We're kind of doing it ad hoc. Whereas if we had somebody specifically assigned to do it, we could potentially hit 60 would be my guess. But right now we're doing it in such a way that we're kind of just it's kind of like a sideline.
So
Right,
maybe we should be proposing a part-time position. to
and I
realize
think,
those revenues.
yeah, and one of the things that was discussed, just to answer your question, it was discussed with the police board that if council so chooses to have someone even full-time or part-time, that we do it on the per diem basis. And it was discussed that if you get $3.50 per check, that $1.50 goes to the person that's doing it, $2 revenue comes to the town. That means that any cost in relation to that person's employment isn't actually being burdened between the taxpayer. So that position would have to sit in the budget just so it's there. But essentially, we would have to pick a number and say, okay, that's the number. But once we were making the money, we would have to take some of that money to a portion to help pay.
But I
off.
agree with Pat, we absolutely have to look at that.
Yes, there's certainly a missed revenue stream, and I really want to highlight the point that have we had someone doing it full time,
Mhm.
we could have that. You've got to understand that this is being done by the officers when they're trying to do patrols. It's not a primary function.
Well, I think we've gone through the test period, it's time to.
Exactly, so.
Yeah, I agree.
And so that's why this was highlighted, because it needed to have discussion and direction and some thoughts on it.
So if we're doing, as we discussed at the police board, which was per diem for each one. And the numbers that we were talking, it would have been more at the 60,000 range,
Yes,
or actually it was. We figured it would be about 35 cost.
But
yeah,
we also, I think, I wasn't at the last meeting, but we talked about it at the previous one, that there's training involved. And so it wouldn't be something we could start right at April 1st, so it probably wouldn't get started until maybe June or July, because
Well, the training is actually the only real cost that would be associated with us, because once they're trained.
what we'd have to recruit, we have to
recruited,
find, we
get
have to go
trained,
out,
and then,
that would be their job.
yes, as they work and do them, they get paid for that.
Yeah.
So,
But we still would go through the hiring process, which usually takes a month and a half to find a person. And then it depends on when the training is available, because the training isn't all the time, it's only.
So I think we refer to the police department to
Yeah.
build it into the budget.
Yeah.
I think that's what we do.
Who's doing the checks right now? Just the officers on duty?
just whenever they can.
Yeah,
And we've got to be careful with that because they have a primary function. This is not a primary function
Right.
role. And secondly, I'm trying to use other means to try and do it, but I'm going to be so careful with that. I look at this, that the budget I have, this would be an additional thing to that budget. I know it would be worked in, but you've got to consider that the addition that we add on is the cost of having that person doing it. So you've got to say that, for example, I make 35,000, okay? The town might make 45, they paid the 35, but they're making 45, so there's a little bit of speculation to accumulate.
Yeah, so we should refer this back to you, come up with the budget. for-
we'll have it after the next board, yeah. We'll be in the next. Go around.
Okay. Anyway, that's food for thought. Planning services is where we probably gonna end the year. This is where we think will be next year. Building fees, license fees, fines. We've taken fines down a little tiny bit. They're, it's hard to budget for that because it depends on when they go to court. They can give out lots of fines, but sometimes the court date is a couple years down the road. This is our rent. This is the food bank and victim services and whatnot.
Victim services, do you have an idea of the costs on, or costs associated with renting that facility?
It's in the budget there.
They're approximately, this year, they're gonna be around $3,000.
Oh, okay.
We're still in the revenue, but you'll see the expense once we get down below the revenue. That's okay.
Before we go too far, I would like to go back to the actual increase in revenue on the taxation side.
Yeah,
So I looked at the numbers, I just want to run by it because this is kind of what I came up with, is that the residential increase is 14% over what was last year, and the commercial is 9%. So when I did the calculation on that, it's about $135,000 with the increase, which
Yep.
worked out to be we did it on the tax rate, it's almost a 26-cent tax increase.
Yeah, so this number that I have here, the 1.122, that is the amount on the roll when we received it January 1st.
Right.
There's been a record number of appeals this year. I don't know how many off the top of my head, but I know it's a few pages. So that number may go down, and I think a lot of them were the condo. And in the past, when anyone's appealed a condo, they usually get the decrease. So just be leery of that as well. Like the appeal.
Do you have an idea when the appeal will come back and you'll have a more
We've only received one so far. Actually, I'm sorry, I've received 2, and they were unfortunately bills. So that's
Yeah.
all we've received so far.
Yeah. You mean
So
you received what adjustments on?
there were no adjustments. There were no adjustments.
But there
So,
could be further adjustments. right?
yeah, so there's like a page and a half of appeals. So as they come through, it usually takes a couple months. I mean, if you've ever appealed your property, you know that they can make a decision right away, or you can appeal their decision and go to, I guess, a hearing. So we had that last year as well. So that's the best case scenario, the 1,022,000. So that number isn't carved in stone, but as we sit right now, that is the number. But there are appeals to come through.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. So I'll go back down to the rental space. So last year, as you know, the reason that the revenue looks so high in the wharf is because we brought that 25,000 into income so that we could spend it down below to do the wharf repairs. And that was done after we had passed the budget, but there was a motion for that. Return on investments, we budgeted 35. I figure they're going to be 85. And so, as you know, I have a lot of money tied up right now. That is the town's, and the investments, they mature on the 5th and the 10th of April, and I plan to cash them all in. And I will, once we've passed our budgets, I will reinvest again a very similar portfolio that we did this past year. And once we know what money we need. So return on investment for town general is approximately $9,000.
The rental spaces there, the breakdown on that is it just the new space in town hall that is doing the increase?
Well, there's the food bank, there's Department of Justice, there is the Comfort Center, and there's ARRA, the food bank.
Farmers market.
And the farm-
Oh, and the farmer's market is, I thought the farmer's market had its own space, but yeah, the farmer's market's down here. Yep,
And then it must be Dave's, the antique stuff.
he's down here, yeah, Dave and the farmer's market.
Okay.
Yep, and so last year, or the year we're in right now, to me it's last year, but so we received approximately $25,000 for the renos in the police department. We did actually spend more money on pixie dust because there were a few, or sorry, on Friday Night Music, because there were a few times it rained and we had to move it over to the Legion. But that was fully covered when, yeah, so that was covered. It didn't cost us any. They planned to give us 10, we got 13. Valley Waste, so this is my best guess. We budgeted 3, but I think we've already gotten 3. So I figure maybe another 10. Pardon me. The farmer's market lease increases slightly. transfer. So we had the last closing that I'm aware of in the town happened today. And so that brings us to around 159,000 for deed transfer for this year. We budgeted 80. So 70, we discussed it, we bantered it back and forth with the management team, and there are still quite a number of properties for sale in the town. And so we feel 70 is very conservative. So that's why that's highlighted. If, you know, maybe you think that should be less, maybe you think it should be more. I think it's extremely conservative. So that's food for thought. Department of Justice, equalization, recreation, everything is for the most part the same.
And Department of Justice, that we don't know what they're going to do with that program, right?
Right. Noah brought in a few extra grants that he didn't know about. You'll see the costs for the recreation facilities increased down below, but remember there's money up above for it. We received, I've got this highlighted just because last year we thought we were going to get the same, we got 2 summer students and we thought we were going to get the same amount of funding. It was a slightly less, so we've put that in there, slightly less. This is a tourism marketing assistant program that we received, and I had to, we budgeted it, we knew we were going to get it, but I have moved it into next year because we've got a deferral for it.
The flood risk program is in a strange place. Why would that be under marketing?
The what? Sorry?
The flood risk infrastructure installment program or whatever it is?
We've
That's a
just
strange
put,
place.
we've just put it here. These are things that came in after we had passed our budget. So this spreadsheet that you're looking at has all kinds of hyperlinks, and when I move things around, it changes all my links. So I try to squeeze it in wherever I can.
Gotcha.
The Parks Canada one being blank, you don't expect anything from Parks Canada this year? Or is that?
No,
That's been filed. So no.
Yeah, well, I just going back over the years and there's always been something. I mean, minimum 5.
It may not be Parks Canada, it might be something else. I've changed the name on this.
Federal government, maybe.
Yeah.
Okay.
And of course, the reenact was the big grant we got for COVID restrictions being lifted. This is the our
Big chunk of change.
yeah, it was. And of course, we bought defibs for this money, and this is the amount of flood risk that we are going to be able to claim for this year, and then it's another half of that plus another 21,639. Sandy just got confirmation yesterday that we can carry this program over until March of 2024. This money that we budgeted Ames, I think they're looking after it. So we budgeted the revenue and we budgeted the expense below, so it's a wash, but I think they're looking after it. We never received money, so I think Ames somehow, some of their bills are paid for. It doesn't flow through this office is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, they do the work and we don't get a bill for it.
Yeah. And then this was the money that we budgeted for our climate change intern, but we were able to get the MIP and the green funds. So her salary was, I think maybe $3 wasn't covered. So then remember, to get to, we had to do paving and we had to do sidewalk repairs. So you agreed we'd move 330,000 over from the operating reserve into this budget, the operating budget, so that we could have a balanced budget. Well, the I just moved another 30,000 since I printed those off because I looked and I thought, oh, we're gonna run off short. So we still are 62,000 that we don't have to transfer over when it's all said and done. So that's really good because we thought we were gonna have to use 330. We've really only used 260.
268.
Yeah, so that I think the number on your sheet is 238, but I moved 30 around 4 o'clock today.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll be away next week. I didn't want to cut short. I didn't want to have checks cut and not money for them. So that's a $2.5 million budget for the most part. And last year we had a 2.7, 2.8. So that's the long and short of our revenue that we know at this point. So now we'll start with, so I wasn't going to go line by line, but I certainly can. I was just going to go and to the ones that I'd highlighted.
I think that's what you should do, but if council have a question, they'll just stop you and ask.
Absolutely, yeah.
That's okay.
Yeah, that sounds great.
Okay.
So these are the budget. This is where I think it's going to end this year. And this is where I project it to be next year. So most of those are for the most part flat. I think the travel, I think maybe you're going to go to the NSFM this year and maybe do a little bit more. Things are opening up more and more. Oh, I did index the insurance by 20%. I really don't have a number to index, but I got a tip that maybe I should index it 20%. So I did. So I don't know if it's right or wrong because I don't have
That's what Valley Waste did today.
Yeah.
20%.
Yeah. So anyway, I erred on the side of caution and did that. So, and as you know, well, maybe you don't, but our health plan went up 7.1%. So I've indexed all that because the members voted and they voted to stay with the platinum plan. Legal fees are up slightly, and that's because of the situation up above in our sewage bill. So then the audit was for a 3-year audit, so I've indexed that. Here I've added the extra 32,000 for the FRIP, which is up above. The money's coming in and the money's coming out. That's the flood risk. And
the engineering is so high.
because that's the FRIP. I've got the flood risk here, the money from flood risk. So 32 up above, 32 below.
Yeah.
And the other part of this is the I'm losing my, Sandy had a meeting with it this morning. It's our share of that. What was it? Yeah, the IMSA, the extra, the fee there for that. That's what's in there.
We were there this morning.
Yes.
Did we budget 40,000 for that flood risk last year as well?
No, we didn't. We didn't know we were going to get it.
It was a grant. We have a grant.
We got the Parks Canada grant first for 25 and then a provincial grant on top of that for 43.
This was the Ames. Remember, I had revenue up above for 49 and then we had expense here, but it never happened. They looked after it, like they've paid for all of that. It didn't flow through our office.
Okay.
So then that's for the most part, the only anomaly this year was the clock tower. This goes, there's nothing much here. I've increased conference and travel and training slightly. A lot of the staff on April the 11th will be taking the finale of the Not Myself Today training here at Town Hall. It's a regional training, so I've got that in there. Our WCB rates have really gone up. They went up a lot in January. The highest I've ever seen them. So
we in demerit in all categories or just some?
All categories.
All categories are in demerit.
Yeah, the highest one is the police.
Yeah.
Just before you leave the travel one there, you doubled it. over last year's budget.
I
Is there a
did
reason?
because even this year we came in, so I didn't go to the AMA. I planned to go to the AMA. I didn't. I did a virtual conference. Sandy went to, I think, I'm not sure if you went to both AMAs
Yes,
and an NSFM. So you can't do that you can't do all those conferences for $2,500.
And you did tax collectors?
I did the tax collectors. Yeah, I did that one in Walton or whatever. Yeah.
And
So
this
that's the
year,
only one I went to virtually, or went to in person.
Halifax.
Is there a way to see pre-COVID numbers?
Yeah, so we can go right here.
Cause they only go to 2019. Yeah, there you go.
See them, this is the line right here. Going
So
back
it
to
never really
2015.
was 2,500 range. It was pretty
2,800
average.
2,800 was just before COVID, really. And then 442.
But anyway.
And a lot of that is training, isn't it?
Mhm.
Like when you go to conference, a lot of that is just,
Well, training is below here. I've got training
Training's
down.
not at conferences.
no, but conferences, a lot of the value for us is.
Well, a lot of it I find is networking more than
Networking.
anything.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think I can show you the detail for that one. I've got the CEO going to UNSM. I've got 2 in person for AMA. I've got AMTC, and then I've got 500 miscellaneous. That's what's in that GL right there. So I can highlight that and we can look at that. Whoops.
Please, thank you.
Yeah. And then this was so we budgeted 81417. Of course, when I get here, I can't. Okay, so this was all of the climate change. Oh, this is 5,500 that we will get billed from Ames, and the 24,000 that we have spent as well. And that's really that. Here I've got okay, so then we come to taxation. This year we did, this is most of this is the renovations for the police department. This year, the repairs, an old coal chute, there's a water leak in victim services. We need to clean the 2 mini splits, and we also need to scrape and paint the trim of the building. And then this is for a metal roof at the conference center. This repairs and maintenance, town-owned other buildings. So those are the things that we've identified this year that need to be done.
We're putting a metal
Putting
roof.
a roof on the conference station.
Metal roof at the conference station.
No, because the chipmunks are eating through the roof and we keep having to repair it.
Oh, is that why it was closed recently?
No,
Oh.
it was closed because there was a water
Oh, right, okay,
damage. Yeah.
yeah.
And the roof is
The roof.
4 years old? Existing?
No,
No, we never
got
did the
fixed.
roof when we did that. When we
Never
took that
did the
over,
roof.
we never did the roof.
Yeah.
Okay.
Ah,
We were told the roof was fine, but it wasn't.
Okay.
And Holly, if
I
you've got.
figured that would be in that
questions,
$500,000.
Okay.
So did you say something?
Yes, Holly, if you have a question, go
No,
ahead.
no, it's all good.
Okay. So then we go to general admin, and I've got the payphone highlighted because it's going to be my recommendation again this year to remove that payphone. Over the course of the last year, the revenue in it was $10.85. And I know that council was concerned about the public having a phone available if they need one. And Chief Kane has said that for $10 a month instead of $57 a month, he could have a phone that they could use outside of his police station.
Oh,
Yeah, I pushed for that payphone to stay an extra year, but I'm happy to see it go now.
yeah, I'm okay with it to go as well. If they can have access to another phone.
They don't have access for another phone at the moment, Holly. We would have to buy it. Build something to put it in, and then it would be $10 a month.
Does anyone have any idea what that would cost?
Depends what you want to look at, right? So it could be plain and simple, or it could be something that's actually attractive, so.
I'll say we can have staff follow up and see.
And would this phone be available 24/7?
Yeah, I would have it outside, and my plan would be if you put it there with, and that's what going back to, you can actually buy a box that goes in that has a little light on the top of it, so people know it's there. And it's there for people to access. It is connected to the Wi-Fi line in my office. I can split a line, that's what I'm saying, so we can split a line through the Wi-Fi, and if you split the line, it's only a $10 cost.
Right, so when the power goes out, it wouldn't work.
We're all our power's connected to the generator.
Right, okay.
And the other point that was brought up at the police was that if somebody goes to the police station and the officer's out, they can actually call
Yeah,
looking for them.
Okay, but they can also make regular calls as
They
well.
can make regular calls as well. That's the whole point of having it, is so that you still have the ability of having that phone.
Mhm.
The initial outlay would probably be the cost of that phone for the year, but if you're looking at it from a longevity point of view, you're reducing the cost of as it's going, you're not providing a service for the public.
Okay, and how long would it take for that service to be up and running?
As soon as we had the green light to get the equipment or the stuff to put there, as soon as it gets done. It's the line is easy, Jeff just switches it over and it's ready for.
Okay. So for $630, we could just continue with the payphone as it is for this year and just to make sure, and there'll be an overlap for 1 year and.
I think if you're gonna do a phone, then you get rid of the payphone and you put the 630 toward putting this phone together. Instead of having a double bill, and then.
Yeah.
Once it's up and running.
Yeah.
It's done.
And as long as there's signage and it's very well.
That would be all part of it. I think initially what I would suggest is leaving the box where the phone is to say it is moved to here. For the first part to get people, and then afterwards, people would eventually get to the point. And if that means that we would have to do a little bit of my equipment budget to put a sign up so it's there, I'm happy to do that, because in the longevity of the town, the 630 is being reduced. And I think that's what we're trying to save, is that extra cost, but still provide the phone. And the other nice thing is that phone then would be free of charge. I think that's the important key. People don't actually have to put
Don't
money
have
in.
to find change.
Yes.
yeah.
Well, I remember last year I pushed hard to keep that
Oh,
phone for $600 a year, and we wasted so much time talking about it. For me, $600, just leave it as it is. Anyway, as long as we have a replacement service that is 24/7, is easy to use. Okay.
So everything really, for the most part, is flat. Software's going up slightly because now we have to, I can't think of what it's called. The 365, we have to have Windows 11 or something. And anyway, the costs go up, and each laptop, computer, desktop, iPad, we pay a fee for that, so. And here you can see victim services. Amory, this is what you asked about.
Yes, thank you. It's right there, right in front of
We
you.
are budgeting some costs this year. Last year we didn't. And
That's
the,
a great lease, that's working.
yeah, and the Heritage Conference, the money that's been tucked away for a number of years before COVID is,
It's still there?
it's still there, but I'm hoping to be able to expense it and get it off the books next year.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's what Ken was able to tell me. So let's hope. Then we go to police department. And I've highlighted police salaries because I think we've got, if we're going to bring in 30,000, we've got a little tiny bit of a person in here, I think. Like very small. We'd have to, if we're going to generate 60,000, this number would have
And
to.
we'll be hiring somebody and.
Yeah, but it would offset itself, so.
It's not an effect of the salary side.
Well, we boost our salary budget. Yeah,
Well,
if we
yeah.
hire somebody, we pay salaries.
Or
you make it on the
or it's
call.
contract and you pay.
Or
by
contract,
per
yeah.
diem.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's gonna show up somewhere in here as an
Yeah.
expense, yeah. Contract expense or whatever, yeah.
so I don't see anything there that really stands out to me. I have
Can I
increased,
ask a quick question on police cleaning? You
yes,
have $6,100, last year was 55, previous year was 22. I'm just wondering, is that formulated off a percentage of the total, or is it actual cost associated with cleaning the police department?
Square footage
A
or
little-
what?
it's actually a little bit of both. So we weren't sure how much more it was going to cost to clean the new police department versus the old. But it does cost more, and cleaning costs are included in there, and of course, everything's gone up, nothing's gone down. So the bulk of it, though, Michael, is a percentage of their overall cost based on square footage.
Melanie,
Yes,
getting back to line 208, stats pay, that's doubled since 2022. Can you just explain why that's doubled, please?
yeah, so in 2022, we would have had 2 constables, and then May of 2022, one of our constables left. We didn't replace that constable until towards the end of October, after Thanksgiving. So there was from May until Thanksgiving that we only had to pay 1 constable for stat pay. That's why it would have been reduced. I budgeted for 93 and it only came in at 7. That's why the difference.
Right.
In our collective agreement with APA&S, if a constable works that day, we pay them based on the shift now. If they work that day, I think we pay them 18 hours. And if they don't, they get paid 8 hours. So that's part of their collective agreement.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Melanie,
Yes.
back to the cleaning. How much in total do we pay for cleaning all of our buildings?
Oh, gee. I don't have that number at my disposal, but I can get that for you and send it out later. How about that?
Okay, thanks, because I was just wondering if it's increased or if it's decreased because you don't have to do the thorough cleanings anymore.
The only place it's decreased is the Comfort Center. They had, when it was open and there were the COVID regulations, you had to clean it, I think, 2 or 3 times a day. So that's over. And when our public washroom, the washroom here at Town Hall was a public washroom, they had to clean it twice a day. Our washroom is no longer a public washroom. So yes, it did go down slightly. But the overall percentage, when we went to tender, they still get the same amount.
Okay,
They get the same amount to do all the buildings that they had tendered for before, but you're just breaking it up by square footage
That's right.
based on that tender.
Yep.
Is that the same thing as what goes on with the heating for the police department as well? And
Yes.
and the power?
Yep.
So the
And-
heating there, they don't have like the oil heat that we have in the rest of the administration building. They have heat pumps. But we're charging out heating of $2,200 into the budget, right?
That's only power, not the oil doesn't go there, just the power.
So there's police office, NSP, 1,500, then police heating costs of 2,200.
Just bear with me for a second and let me just go
Sure.
on and have a look. I don't know if you guys can see my screen that I'm on right now.
No.
Mark, do you know off the top of your head?
Sorry. For heating, you mean, or for power? So for me right now, because when we had the revamp, we don't have any heating source that comes from the furnace. Ours is all heat pump or baseboard heat, it's all electric.
Okay, so you have about $1,800 of Irving Oil heat that has been charged to your department.
Yeah, so we now no longer rely on heat coming from the furnace.
Yeah, so we need to take that out.
Yeah,
So that's the 22?
Yeah, we're 1,800, but anyway.
Oh, I'm sorry, I need to get back over to where I'm at with you guys. Here we go. Okay, so then,
The only thing is, just the only thing that came to my mind, Melanie.
Yeah.
Is the only space would be the tiny little space that was left from the revamp in the basement. So it wouldn't be the upstairs, but in the basement, there's a tiny little area that we've had to retain.
good point, yeah.
You
okay.
only use that as a train.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's
You're not
right.
using it to heat.
It was just highlighted.
it's only got one radiator in
Yeah.
it, so just to be in fairness, it just slipped my mind, but the top of the actual main office doesn't have any type of heat costs from the furnace. I would say that little tiny piece downstairs where the old police department was would be something that we would maybe have to pay a fraction of,
Yeah,
because
it may not be
victim
worth it.
services, yeah.
So,
So Melanie, I think we're at 7:30 right now. We've made good progress. We got to page 5.
Yeah,
So we're thinking maybe scheduling another meeting.
yep, that sounds great.
So it can be a separate meeting just on budget, public meeting.
Yeah. Yeah,
I can go, yeah, and that may be the best way to go.
I think so. Yeah,
Okay, how does council feel about that?
I think that's a good idea.
but I do want to bring up one thing before we close out this, and only because we're at the police section right now. As you know, I'm new to the police commission board. But what's interesting is there's very little variable costs for the police department to be affect their budget. A lot of it is very fixed.
Mhm.
And then I look at things like earmarking, heat, electrical, and cleaning, which the only way they can offset what we assign to that department is to cut training, equipment, stuff like that out of the police budget,
That's not.
which is not. It's not police services. Heating bill is a budget item, but we have to adjust the budget for the policing, for police services by removing actual police services items to compensate for those items. So I'm just,
Or bringing in extra revenues?
well, and that's another side of it. That's, you know, I think it's the way to go to offset some of the
Agreed.
costs, but those are the fixed costs we're never gonna get rid of, right? So.
And there's more fixed costs on the way, I guess, with the results of the commission report.
So I'm just putting that bug out
Yeah.
there with you guys, so when
Yeah.
we get further into discussion, it might be something to
Yeah.
take into consideration.
Absolutely.
Are you gonna be at the next budget meeting, Mark?
Yeah, I want to be at all of, I want to be at all of it, because I
Because
think
I've got a
it's.
couple of questions for you.
Yeah, that's fine.
So are we okay with scheduling a meeting? Do you want to schedule a meeting right
Yeah,
now?
let's
So that
schedule
we
it.
have it all in the room? Polly,
Yeah.
are you okay with that?
Yes.
he sounds, oh,
Sorry, Molly, speak up.
looking at like April 4th, 5th.
Meeting notice?
Did you say?
48 hours notice of meeting.
But I will be on vacation,
And yes, she has her vacation from when to when?
the 24th till April 3rd.
24th, and today is the 15th. So if we could get a meeting in between now and when Sammy heads out, that'd be great, because we got through 5 pages. And there are 11 plus, and then the capital budget.
So I'm in Halifax on Monday, so
So that
the
won't be
20th
good.
and the 21st.
Okay, so you're way down.
I'm at meetings in Halifax.
Okay.
So I'm looking at April the 4th, 5th, 6th.
I was looking at this month, the 22nd.
Okay, that would be,
Yeah, well, I guess Sandy could maybe do
that would
it.
be Michael's first day back.
You can't be
I'm
there.
not
Eleanor.
here next week.
We don't have a
Oh.
lot of meetings.
Oh, Melanie's not here next week,
Never mind.
She's on vacation this week.
so it is, we're in the after,
April.
Okay,
yeah.
well, it's a good thing we got started tonight.
Yeah.
So that first week of April, what have you all got?
Well,
Yeah.
and why Tuesday's good for me.
Tuesday, the 4th, works for you?
7's a holiday.
Yeah, it's Good Friday.
So.
So the
whole
fourth
is
is
on the
my
Wednesday.
first day back from vacation,
Who's first in back?
my first day back, and we have committee of the whole the next day.
Yes,
Right,
yeah,
yeah.
so that's not gonna work for you. How are the sixth or the seventh?
Seventh is good.
Seven is
I mean, the
right.
sixth,
No.
oh, sorry.
The
Thursday,
seventh
sixth.
won't work
not
because
good.
it's
Yeah,
Good
sixth.
Friday.
Carlton Center.
Yeah,
Well, the
Good
sixth,
Friday.
the French call it
Hey,
Jeudi
it is that.
equivalent of Good Thursday,
I never know when it.
but that's
when
in
it's on.
French. Okay.
Okay,
so
that's the
the
sixth.
sixth look good? Okay,
Yeah.
what time of day? 6 o'clock?
What?
You're good in the sixth.
Yeah, it's open on the sixth,
And
so,
what time? Budget meeting?
6.
6 o'clock?
yeah, sure.
Does that work, Melanie and Holly?
I can do.
That works.
I can do 5:15 if you want.
5:15?
Leave the office and come straight up.
5:15 would be good, right? For most people.
Might as well go straight from work to work.
Okay, so 5:15
Yeah.
on the sixth, we have, and we should be able to get through the rest of the budget and then continue from there, if you're okay with that.
Yeah,
And
do
we'll
you,
plan for two hours.
right.
max.
Do you want me to show you the capital since I have you here, just so? Or do you want me to forget it?
No, we still have a whole whack of stuff.
Oh, yes, you do. Of course you do. Yeah.
But that's great.
Yeah.
Thank you for everything.
So,
Melanie,
so when we meet on the 4th, or I mean on the 6th, be lots of things that will have changed again. So
Right?
make sure I give you updated copies of everything.
Oh, yes. please.
Wonderful, and I appreciate the color, really helps.
All right.
And do you want us at least to come with a proposal to the sixth, or send in a proposal to the budget, so we put it in the budget for
Oh,
discussion?
ahead of time if we can get it, sure. Yeah,
Because we have a meeting prior to
yeah,
that.
anything we can get ahead of time, that'd be great.
Okay, we'll submit it in, so Melanie will have it before the meeting.
That's wonderful. And anybody else with any numbers, anything that?
I got it.
Wonderful, thank you, Melanie.
All right. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you, Mark.
All right.
Okay. All right. Oh, now we have to get out of get the budget out of our heads. It's kind of hard once we start, right? Okay. So we're deferred capital budget, meeting rules and procedures. I know how exciting this is. I don't think there's much left to do on this. It's just yes. So most of the issues were all resolved.
Michael had missed the meeting that we had discussion on that, so I'm not sure if he had questions on any of the other topics.
Okay, well, let's start right there.
There was one that was on the last meeting, though. Did we
Mhm.
discuss that one? And that was the back and forth and the,
Yeah, it was just the,
No, we haven't discussed any.
no,
Yeah, we waited. We
We
tabled that
waited,
so
yes.
everybody was there.
okay. I guess that was the one that jumped out at me,
number 9. Debate. A member may speak only 2 times on a debatable motion.
and I can see that if we were 30 or 15 or 20 or whatever, but we are 5, so
Mhm.
the back and forth kind of tends to happen, especially when our discussions go. So I didn't see us I didn't see that one fitting our council.
Well, except that this came right out of the manual. It's Robert's rules.
Mhm.
So this is one of Robert's rules, is that there is an unlimited opportunity to come back at something. You come in prepared, you have 2 chances, up to 10 minutes each. So this one we need to, and I had no idea there was this rule. So that.
But we
would
don't,
be-
we don't tend to talk for 10 minutes at a time on a subject matter, and then we'll have somebody else respond to it. Well, we're talking on a subject matter for 10 minutes or more, but not individually talking, like, nobody's gonna take over the table for 10 minutes, not even I. So it's. And as the conversation happens, it evolves. Like, that doesn't allow anything that, yes, I prepared my speech, this is my comments, follow my tours. And she changes my mind, or there's more information that comes out in the conversation, I think it should be flexible enough to allow us to continue with that.
well, in that second paragraph kind of addresses that. Where it says, any member of the.
Can call
council request the chair to limit discussion to 2 minutes.
Yeah,
And I can see times when the debates got circular, and that's what we want to avoid.
Yeah.
Going over the same ground again, just to
Right.
wear each other down is not a good way to go in a meeting.
Yeah.
So perhaps we just follow Pat's proposal that everybody's on notice. If you think something's went on too long, you say it, and
Right,
so if you're okay with all those rules, we could do that. If you're okay with the rest of it,
I would like to go back to number 5,
number 5.
additions to the agenda, because one was added again tonight
Yeah, yeah.
without the notice, so I
Yeah.
just want to see, make sure you guys are okay with that. And the reason that I am asking for that, for that 24 hours is just so I can prepare and do the research that's needed,
Yep,
to
I
do
agree
that,
with that
so
one.
is that,
okay, so. There's a difference there, because the one I added is not for. It's for discussion. To see if where we want to proceed with that. If we were trying to make a decision on it, then you would need to do the research for it. And I 100% agree that you need time to, you can't, throw it at you and say, oh, we need to make a decision on it tonight.
right,
So that's,
yeah, because there's nothing here that addresses discussion points.
No, normally those go to committee of the whole, and if the questioner's sounding out, they normally go to committee of the whole. The idea is when we come to council, we're ready to make a decision on
we're
it,
prepared.
but if
Yeah,
there's something urgent. Yeah,
something urgent needs to be added, I know, like, I understand, and there was also that everybody has to agree, so like. If something wants to be added, then it should have been an email to everybody, and if all 5 of you agree to add it to the agenda, then it gets
then we do
added,
it, yeah,
not just bring it up. Because one person wants to talk about it. It
and
should
we
be
don't have
added.
that rule in place now, it's not like we're not breaching anything, we
No.
just didn't have a rule.
And that's why I just wanted to bring it back up, so we can have the discussion, because Michael wasn't here
Yeah.
when we had the first discussion.
But even if it's something urgent, if our CAO wants to bring up an urgent item and
She'd
just
like to,
brings it, well, no, but even on the day of the meeting, if minutes before she says, I have something to add, I think our CAO should be able to add it because she's already done her research. But I don't think council should do that unless they've gone through Sandy first, so that she has enough information she can.
I
talk
agree,
through it.
totally agree.
That we have, I think the 24-hour rule applies to councillors and but not the CAO. Right,
just being devil's
Yeah.
advocate on this, when these things get added, it tends to be with regards to timing. Right, we need to get an answer before we go to the next committee of the whole or the next council, and that Sandy adds it all the time because of that timing issue. So I agree that the majority of the stuff should be there, but I think there should be some avenue if something comes up. I got, something that came up within the 24 hours, you got something that come up in the 24 hours, it can be presented.
yeah.
And then approved by the whole, let's say, okay, yes, we'll add it, or no, send it to the CAO and we'll.
Well, this one's clear, except in the case of a clear emergency, no new items. So that would address timing issues like the letter we got from Middleton, this quick turnaround. I think that would cover stuff like that. I don't know. I like having rules around the agenda so that we can all prepare.
And the idea of kind of all of these concepts or ideas was to not have 8-hour meetings, which we don't have.
Yeah.
Usually our meeting length is pretty good. Now we've had some 3-hour ones,
But we are
And-
trying to contain the time.
and tonight it could have gone into one of those longer meetings, which, when staff come in at 8 o'clock in the morning and they're here till 8 o'clock at night, we're probably not on the top of our game.
So like if we go over 2 hours, people get tired, people have
Right.
other things to do in a day. So this is a pretty simple change. This is one that staff requested, and I thought it was a reasonable one.
Yeah,
Fine,
I think if a councillor wants to add something to the agenda, during the day, maybe contact CAO saying, what do you think? Can we add this tonight? CAO would say, yeah, I've got enough background on that, we can talk about that. And then run it by CAO first. I don't know.
If you're okay with that, Sandy, that means you part way.
so
And then
an
if I
email
come up
of
with
the
a-
idea or?
Yeah. And then if, like, a suggestion coming up, and maybe it just be in your roundtable discussion instead of an item, or if there's another way to approach it, then we could do, like, that gives me the chance to kind of.
Filter it,
direct
or-
it.
Yes,
Set,
yes,
I think the whole idea is more efficient meetings.
right,
right.
It's
Right,
just
and
that.
And then the CAO would add it to the agenda?
right,
Yeah.
yeah,
Okay. Okay,
So we're good with that?
Yeah,
Speaking of the round table.
Yeah.
At number 12, the comment is there's no need for a round table at committee of the whole. But we don't do it at council, so.
I thought we didn't agree to that one, I thought you wanted to keep it on.
Okay,
Yeah, we're gonna keep
Yeah, that was left.
I
Yeah,
didn't remember.
yeah.
I mean, sometimes, you know, not a lot to say at the end.
Right, someone says it all.
All,
So it's okay.
but it's all good.
Reports are improving
Yeah.
in terms of quality
Yeah.
and information.
Yeah.
And you know, when you have time to read them, you tend to read it all, or
Yeah.
take it all in.
What did we decide on number 9 again, the 2 items per councillor? We're not gonna go with that.
No, but any one of us can just say enough, you know.
You can call it, say, 2 minutes.
I moved to limit the discussion to 2 minutes.
Is it, that's great.
And it's in the rules, so we're allowed to use that.
Yeah.
We just haven't
Been doing it.
That's right.
noticed, or, yeah,
And remember, this list was just suggested changes.
correct.
Yeah, that's all they were from this course.
Yeah.
This wonderful course that our CIO took for us.
Yay.
And it showed one of our aims and strategic plans to improve on governance.
Mhm.
So like the video conferencing policy, that was an improvement, is,
Mhm.
you know, whatever we can use,
Yeah.
right? At least we're paying attention and we're doing our best.
Yeah, so staff will make changes if there's changes needed to the current meetings and rules with policy, and we'll have them on for April committee of the whole.
Okay.
And then
we'll
we
go
can
from there.
encourage after that, another step, encourage committees, encourage them to adopt whatever they see fit. Yeah.
Okay, good.
It's up to them, I'm not gonna interfere in what they do, yeah. Great, that does that item, which is great. Flood risk assessment and adaptation report.
So that was just an update from our meeting that we had last week, our public meeting. I thought the public meeting went very well.
Mhm.
There's 23 people in attendance, very well received. There's some great input from the public, and they are working on the revision of the report. Once they kind of reach out to some of those people and contacts and
Make the adjustments and see if there's options of doing it in phases.
phases
So,
and different things, yeah.
Hmm.
So,
No, I
Any
still
other
don't have
comments?
the cost information for the grant applications, because we're proceeding with the grant applications. Now,
Okay.
we're not waiting. So it's 2 big grant applications, so we do need the cost information for that, because.
Yeah, and that's what they're working on, and I was able to get, I requested an extension from the FRIP grant. I asked for a 4-month extension and got a whole year, so,
Oh, that's good.
That's good.
yeah, so I'm not as
That's
pressured
really
now.
good.
Yeah,
Perfect.
And what about the wharf? Are we including the wharf in the
We're
application?
waiting for the engineers to get back to us on the
Right.
proposal made to them by the committee,
Perfect,
so that's where that is.
great.
And it's FM Spring Conference, you have the information, who's going?
yeah, so and then today they just updated the agenda is now online. So there's, the keynote speaker is putting local data on the fingertips of municipal governments. There's one on local leadership in climate action, moving NSFM forward, their bylaw changes. Code of conduct update is at the conference, evaluating your CAO.
Oh, that's a good one. I'll go to that one.
Yeah. So, yeah, so it is $459 a person to attend the conference. It's just in Digby.
Mhm.
So if you want to register, just let me know who wants to go.
If they have evaluation of CIO, they should evaluation of council. That's who should go first. The rest of my kids. Man,
Have you heard from anybody yet who wants to go?
No,
Okay,
just kind of
so people let
put it out there.
Sandy know, please.
Yes,
okay.
Hey, because the budget's there, right?
yes, there's monies in your.
And this is usually in Halifax, isn't it?
Well, the changes, so yeah, so that's why this one's in Digby and the next one's in Truro.
So Digby, that's nice and close.
Nice and close, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then we have the new emergency room closures that was circulated to council, and I know, Paula, you were sounding out your task team members.
Yes, so yes, I ran that by the task team and They've reviewed the letter and they are in support of the town signing it. In addition to that letter, the task team recommends that the town also sends its own letter, which the team can assist with. And that would be more specific to the needs of Annapolis Royal. Because in that letter, it talks about catchment area only coming up as far as Bridgetown, but of course we are directly affected by what happens at Soldiers. And obviously Digby as well.
So task team would help us with the letter. Is everybody okay with that? We'll get a suggested letter from.
That's fine.
Okay,
Yeah.
So there's two issues here. So first, I would like to know if you want to
Support it.
support the Middleton letter
Yes,
and I can let them know the letter signature.
I think
And
it's
then we do our
important for
own
me,
letter.
for municipalities to support each other over this.
I agree.
And did you see the letter that MLA Common Care sent as well? I sent that around to you.
Yeah.
It's a very well worded letter.
Would we be asking for these municipal units to sign off on our letter?
Well, that's, I'm not sure why we would, if we're doing a letter with Middleton,
Right.
to support soldiers,
Yes,
right? And then the Annapolis Royal letter would be to support our local UTC.
well, I would say so, yeah, because we don't have a 24/7 emergency room anymore, do we?
But are we
have-
ready to even
But are
state
you-
a position?
Yeah.
That's the
Right.
problem, you see.
I see.
We can
Okay,
easily support the Middleton letter, I
Mhm.
think,
okay,
to say for sister municipality, but there's our own letter, there's still time. The
Yes.
task force wants to take more time.
okay. Well, we're gonna be meeting next week. We just had our meeting last week. We'll meet next week. We can talk about
Because
that,
it's just your
maybe
second meeting.
put something together, maybe for committee of the whole to take a look at.
Perfect.
Okay,
That gives you time to recommend something to us.
right, okay.
Great.
So I just need direction from council to let the town of Middleton know we will support their letter.
So are
I
we
don't
all
need a
okay with
motion, I
that?
just.
I'm okay with that.
Okay.
Yeah.
You're okay with that, Paul? Okay,
Holly?
you do it. Thank you, Holly. Okay, we're on, done. And on to recommendations of committees. Motion one, who starts? Oh,
Yeah, the donation.
oh, yes,
bylaw.
yes, item 3, sorry about that. Don't-
Well, it just came to my attention that we don't have a bylaw for donations coming to the town. And,
We need a policy.
yeah, policy or anything for it. So I think it's something that maybe we should have staff take a look at, because I think we're running into issues with those, and I think it's something that I think a clear policy in place would help councils now and in the future make things a lot easier for everybody.
So we can ask staff to look at that if everybody's agreed. And please include the consideration for the twinning team, because they are getting more dignitaries coming to their events and we have to pay for them. Find a way, and the only way is through donations. I'm writing the French consul of New Brunswick tomorrow, but we do need more cash for the committee, just because people want to come. And
But should the taxpayers pay for people to come?
no, this would be on the donations,
Just
just like
donation.
it is a campaign, yeah, they're not asking, seeking anything from the town, just.
So maybe we could add that into our
You could use
Canada.
that as a test case for your, that's what I mean, you could, you could
As
consider
motion
that
to-
while you're at it, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So are we all okay with that?
Are you talking about donation bylaws so that if somebody donates to the town for an event, that there's
Donation to the-
not restrictions on how that money would be used, kind of thing? Is that?
I'll leave it in the staff
Something-
hands to
yeah.
kind of see what's out there, but
Okay.
any donations to the town should be. We could have anything, it's earmarked for the town,
Could be
or
like
it's
a
earmarked for a particular portion of what we do.
beneficiary or something like a.
Yeah, the town may those button up on the site.
Right.
But then how is it?
Yeah.
How is it administrated?
Right,
All that stuff should be black and white.
Okay, so we're gonna look at that. Okay.
And we could look and see if any other municipalities have that kind of policy in place.
Yeah, that's why I brought it forward tonight.
okay.
Might make it
Okay, so who's
easier.
going to- Who's going to move with the first motion?
I'll do it.
Okay,
The council approved the creation of a CanadianHelps.org fundraising campaign for the Grant Potter Memorial Playground.
I'll second that. Oh, sorry.
any discussion?
Well, yes, is this where, would you like to have the twinning committee add it to the Canada Helps buttons to help support this?
Yes, I would, because there is a campaign now to try to raise more funds, yeah.
Would people be okay, would council be okay with that addition?
Yeah, absolutely. The reason we just discussed that and we were a little unsure is because we didn't know if there was a specific project in mind.
There is,
Perfect.
it's the delegation arriving on the eighteenth.
Okay.
And there's a pressing need to come up with more money.
So
So there'll be two campaigns.
are we making an amendment to this motion? Is that what we're doing? We say the creation of the Canadian Help fundraising campaign for the Grant Potter Memorial Playground and
And the,
delegation
Delegation.
funding for the twinning committee?
Yeah. if
Is it-
that's
is it-
acceptable.
Has to be
Yeah.
specific to a project in my mind.
Right, so it would be the 2023
The 2023 twinning delegation.
delegation.
Yes,
Okay.
if that's what people want to do.
Okay, so are we reading back now or are we just,
I think we're good. We've got a mover and a seconder, if you're agreeable. Any further discussion? We're going to deal with policy, it's a separate issue.
No.
Ready for the question?
Yeah.
All in favor? Aye, motion carried. You didn't object, Polly? I didn't hear you.
No, I said aye.
Motion 2.
Okay, I'll do that one. I move that council approve the grant to encourage new and interesting events policy 2023-05 dated February 2023.
Do you have a seconder?
I'll second.
Discussion?
Why do we need this? Why do we need these two?
Because we got rid of our old grants policy. And so the idea was to bring in 2 new policies to replace the old grants policy, but specific to new events on the marketing side and the other specific to community things.
Two projects.
so before we were
So
doing,
Genie and Pickle.
it was all combined. We have numerous submissions before.
Yeah.
And they come at the medic, we filter them through and determine what would come into the budget and present the budget. But they were tended to be not necessarily earmarked for new business, which or new events, which I thought was a good idea, or the community side of it as well.
The application, so,
And it's specifically for certain things.
It's incentivized.
Yes,
It's on a scoring system, so if it's a new event, you get more points, but if it's an old event, they can still apply. They just won't rank as high or low.
I remember reading that.
and the push is for outside the normal season,
Yeah,
and it's a 1 year reviewed thing, so. we'll take a
and it's
review.
all dependent on budget, so even when these, if these policies get approved tonight, they don't go in effect because it's related to the budget, so then council will decide how much money to put on that budget line, and then that's the budget that will be used to go through the grants that are received.
Gotcha. Very good question.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried. I saw your hand up. Okay, motion 3. This is the parallel project, the new development side. Do we have a mover for that?
I'll move it.
Yeah.
We won't make Holly read
Yeah.
these tonight. The council approved the projects to, council approved the projects to improve quality of life policy 2023-06 dated February 2023.
Seconder,
I'll second that.
further discussion? Yes, thanks.
So this one just needs a maximum amount included into the budget. We missed that when we were putting it in.
Okay, to the
So-
maximum
We were suggesting $500 from Medic
of 500
per
For
application.
application.
per application from the medic budget.
No,
No,
from Medic,
oh.
like just Medic, when we discussed
Oh,
these at
okay.
Medic,
So
we thought $500
Oh.
was a good number, so.
to a maximum of 500 per application.
Correct.
For both of them.
No,
No, it's 2,000 for the other. We didn't include that in the other motion.
It's in the policy though, if you read
Right.
the policy, and this one
Yes.
just says added amount or something.
Okay.
The amount is missing, so we needed to.
Thank you for that. All right, are you ready for the question? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Hand up, Polly, that's all she can do right now, okay? Motion 4.
I move the council repeal the donations and grant policy number 2021-03 to be replaced with encourage new and interesting events policy, and improve quality of life policy.
I'll second that.
No question on that.
And improved with a D, quality of life policy. Okay, it's seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you, Holly. Okay, motion 5. Let's get the motion on the floor and then we can discuss.
Council give first reading to the orderly and peaceful conduct bylaw dated March 15th, 2023.
Do I have a seconder?
I'll second that.
First reading too. So that's just the process to get it back in flow.
So, discussion. Who wants to start?
Well, I will make one point again, that we're down live again, that this is not a new policy in any fashion. It's an amendment to an existing one.
So we talked at the last meeting that there would be a change from quiet time starting at 10 o'clock and now starting at 11 PM. So that we discussed that at the last meeting. But I have concerns about adding a decibel level for the evening at 55 decibels. I have concerns about that. And we talked about that at the last meeting.
Anybody else? Go ahead, Sandy.
I also have sent this to our solicitor for review, just to make sure we're on track. And he definitely approved the 55 decibels, as long as we had the tool to measure the decibels, which we have purchased in advance. So that was his only question, that if we state the decibels, we have to have the correct
Device.
device to do that. So just to let you know that it all passed, yeah.
And I'm for the decibels being in there. I think there's, again, needs to be some sort of guideline in place to make a decision. And I guess to enforce a decision, you need to have something there to say that it's over. And I know it's still in the officer's judgment, but I think gets debatable, and I don't want to see that debatable if we have to move forward on something.
Councillor Sanford?
And we had also talked about having Sundays and holidays, the regular 11 o'clock end time, right? That's in the new, that'll be in the new first reading.
Yes.
Okay,
And Deputy Mayor?
No, I'm fine with it, but I was wondering whether that means we have to. Can we still vote on this motion if we're making specific changes to it?
Yes, because it started the process.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
Those
this is
are first reading, yeah, okay.
yeah, redoing it all.
But you're right, Pat, that's important to know where we're at. Okay, and I'll just speak up for myself. I'm also opposed to decibel limits just because I don't see the support from the public for them, but I'll leave it at that. So are we all ready for the question?
Question.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
So the ayes have it. And
Nay.
nay for me as well. So the ayes have it. Thank you. And on to the next motion. Motion 6.
I move the council set the date for the public hearing and second reading as April 19th, 2023.
Maybe we should add 6 o'clock PM. Yeah.
Yes, we should have it 6 o'clock PM. That's right. One of the things we're trying to do with our motions is make sure we're complete. We have a seconder for that
I'll
motion.
second that.
Okay. Are you ready for the question?
Question.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Nay.
Nay. And I will nay as well, so the ayes have it, motion is carried. Motion 7.
I move that council approve and send a letter to MP Chris D'Entremont to support funding for a national school food programme in budget 2023.
Second that.
Looks complete. Ready for the question?
Yes.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried. Thank you both. Next. Let's get the motion on. There'll be a bit of discussion here.
That council agreed to direct staff to sign the lease agreement with FAPS and add the pool and buildings to the list of town assets.
Do you have a seconder?
I'll second that.
The only point I wanted to bring up here was I was privy to the negotiations of the first lease. And the advice we had received from the town solicitor at that point, and I believe it's the same company, solicitors, was in the case of pools, the quote was, more insurance is better. So the reason there was a double insurance, but that was done on the advice of the solicitor. I just want to put the information out there in case that changes anything for anyone here, piece of information. Is there any other discussion?
Well, I can comment on the insurance world. Yes, they would sue everybody but the town is going to be the deepest pockets. The main, it's going to come out of us no matter what. Even if there was 4 other groups that had insurance on that place, we're the ones with the $25 million liability we're going to be paying out.
Mhm.
And the other side of that was, we were again making an organization pay for, instead of putting their monies where it should be, it was paying for things like admin cost of insurance, which is covered anyways by us. So,
Just putting it out there, that was the advice at the time.
yeah.
Mhm.
So are you ready for the question?
Yes.
All in favor?
Aye.
A motion carried, thank you. Then a motion from the Environment Advisory Committee. Who would like to make that?
Oh, I'd love to make
Okay,
that.
you go for it.
I move that council nominate John Bottomley for the 2023 Gulf of Maine Visionary Award.
Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Any discussion, questions from anybody?
Yes, so we had a special meeting, the Environment Advisory Committee, to talk specifically about this and to make the recommendation to council to nominate John Bottomley. This award is based on his summary piece on the threat of sea level rise and storm surges present for Annapolis Royal. And it was probably $40,000 worth of work in kind that he did, and it was referenced tonight by Ames. So it's a significant contribution that he's made.
Very knowledgeable, we're not gonna have them involved.
Very fortunate.
Yeah.
I think the deadline was the end of March. That's why we
Yes.
had to have this special meeting.
Yes.
So are you ready for the question?
Question.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, unanimous, motion carried, thank you. So, I've submitted my reports, you have it, you have the Chief Administrator Officer's report, any questions for the CIO on her report?
I just have one question. Where is it now? Community-led place making program. Is that the same as Build Nova Scotia? Ah, right. Okay. Do you have an update on that?
So the application was submitted last week, for phase 1 kind of the project. We've been meeting every 2 weeks with, the community group and Build Nova Scotia. Build Nova Scotia has kind of directed us in our application to focus down on the farmers market and the wharf area, not kind of, because we had projects kind of all over and they want us to focus. Their main idea is to initiate activation. So they're thinking that the farmers market space is underutilized and maybe we can activate that space down there. So our application is submitted for bistro tables and chairs, a new stage for the farmers market area because the stage is old and needs to be replaced. Drawing a mural on the last third of the wharf with some benches that will be put kind of so it blocks the traffic so they can't drive down. So they'll have a turnaround spot. Wayfinding was a small part of it. And it's still like the community group, so the Board of Trade, the farmers market group, Arrow and the town will be the group that's getting it, and we should have notice by April 1st if we're getting the funding.
That's good. You talked about bistro tables. Will there be a storage area to put those in the winter time? Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, good.
And I had one other question about the regional coordinator going full time, is there a proposal for that, or is?
That was in their budget that they submitted.
That was in their budget, okay.
Yes,
So
so
that's
their
my
budget
question.
that was submitted last night. No, Tuesday night, Monday night.
Yeah.
Monday night, we had,
Yeah, Monday, we will.
yeah, so in that budget,
Yeah,
did we talk about budget at Monday?
no, we didn't.
Okay, so I had a meeting somewhere along
Yes, you
there.
did, because that's where I picked it up from.
Yes, and they're proposing that the position be moved from part-time to full-time, which is like doubling the
Exactly,
remote budget.
right.
I don't agree with that.
Okay, well, that's why I thought it was important we pick it up. Okay, so that's the CIO's report, unless there are other questions or?
No.
Okay, on to planning services report, which you have. You have the water report, stop me if I'm going too fast. Is that medic? Counselor Sanford.
I submit it, it should be a tab.
Yes, we did have it.
Yeah.
Tab C or something. Yeah, I did see it. And she's got a good explanation, she has an explanation of that report in there too.
Right, okay.
Okay.
You can always see the report.
Just came out
Was
today.
systematic,
Yeah, right.
so if you take a look at it.
Board of Police, back to you too, and it's in there on tab 14.
Yeah.
Any questions for Councillor Sanford? Training committee, you have it, it was included in my mayor's report, library report, deputy mayor,
There have not been any meetings.
that's easy. Then traffic flow advisory,
We did not have a meeting.
okay? All right, environment advisory committee, Councillor.
I
It's in
think you
you.
missed yours.
It's in the packet.
Yep.
You missed IMSA.
Missed IMSA. Oh, that was in my report as well. I do have to say, they developed an incredible costing model for all the different waste streams. Spectacular work.
Yeah.
I will, why don't we put that on the committee of the whole agenda just for information? The costing model, it's really, I don't know if they'll be able to do it, but it's one of the most elaborate things I've ever seen them do. It was pretty impressive.
Andrew's all right with that,
And who was?
Andrew?
Well, there seems to be harmony in there seems to be a lot of harmony.
Wonderful.
So I picked that up from just, even though we're remotely, Sandy and I were signing in, but the team seems to be
Yeah.
gelling really well.
Mhm.
So it is good. The Academy condo board, we had a report. from-
Yes, the pool, the condo board and the
We have
environment,
that.
it's all in.
So I think what we will do from now on with those is just mention where they are. And yeah, okay, good. So order of Nova Scotia, you have the lieutenant governor pleading with us to nominate someone, but we haven't come up with anyone to nominate. So that's for your information. Enabling access funding, tab 16, you have that, the decision that was made,
Unfortunately, we did not get approved for the grant.
but
Which grant?
the work was done.
Yeah, so that was the grant for the sidewalk on Prince Albert Road, the flashing sidewalk.
Oh, didn't get it.
No, the sidewalks downtown, the playground was included in that grant. And I think that's what it was, just.
We can reapply, right? They said we could.
They,
either-
yeah, if they had extra money, they'd let us know in June, but yeah, we did
Mhm.
not get that grant, so.
And on that note, we've made it to the in-camera session. Do we have an idea do we get an idea from YouTube who's joined us in numbers?
Yes, at one point there was 6, right now it says 5.
Okay, so one person has had to leave. So thank you for attending our meeting this evening, and I will entertain a motion to go into camera.
I'll move.
And do we have a seconder?
Second.
Okay, all in